Welcome to Cinematic Recaps. This movie is called Street Kings. The movie is about Tom, who is well known for keeping his fingers crossed when it comes to dealing with criminals. But when one of Tom's co-workers is found dead, the evidence points directly at him, and his life quickly devolves into a terrifying nightmare. His life is in jeopardy, and he has no one he can trust anymore. Sit back and enjoy to see what happens. Tom Ludlow is a disillusioned LAPD officer who rarely follows the law and is tormented by the passing of his wife. Tom Ludlow wakes up at the beginning of the film after drinking the night before. Working undercover, he meets two Korean gangsters who want to purchase a machine gun from him in a parking lot. The Koreans then proceed to steal Tom's car after a brutal beating. After finding his car near the Koreans' hiding place, Tom charges the building, killing everyone inside, including a defenseless man on the toilet, before discovering two missing children who had been held captive there. He then goes about covering up what actually occurred while wearing a pair of rubber gloves. The next scene shows Ludlow being surrounded by law enforcement officers at the crime scene. While Terrence Washington, his former partner, confronts him, the other cops in his squad praise him. It appears that every officer in Ludlow's squad, including their captain, Jack Wander, regularly breaks and bends the law. Washington has changed his ways and no longer supports the unit's fraud and corruption. After congratulating Ludlow, Wander drives him to a hospital to receive medical attention for a wound he sustained during the gunfight with the Koreans. Ludlow waits for a specific nurse at the hospital who ends up being his girlfriend, Grace Garcia. As he waits, an adoring patient in the ER's hallway remembers Ludlow and is eager to learn how he solved the Korean crime. Prior to Ludlow speaking, a different officer approaches the admiring patient and discloses that the man is actually James Biggs, Captain of Internal Affairs. Biggs offers Ludlow his card and urges him to collaborate with him, but Ludlow is obvious in his dislike of Biggs. At a department gathering, Ludlow learns that Biggs' investigation into Ludlow was sparked by Washington's report. Ludlow pursues Washington to a convenience shop where, furious at him for snitching, he confronts him and beats him up. Ludlow, though, observes two masked men pull into the parking lot before going into the shop. He makes an attempt to persuade Washington that a robbery is imminent, but Washington is unconvinced. Washington is killed by the two men who arrive brandishing machine guns. Washington also receives one shot from Ludlow's gun, however it's unclear if this was done on purpose. Wander arrives to look into the crime, and he manages to convince Ludlow to take the store's surveillance video disc in case it contains evidence linking Ludlow to Washington's murder. Both cocaine and the DNA of two offenders known as Fremont and Coates are discovered at the location. Despite his seeming shift in attitude, it is thought that Washington was corrupt. It is also likely that he stole drugs from the department's evidence room and sold them to Fremont and Coates, who then killed him because of a bad transaction. Detective Paul Disco Discant is persuaded by Ludlow to aggressively pursue the case. They question other known criminals harshly as part of their search for the shooters, which eventually takes them to a home in the hills where they find the actual Fremont and Coates bodies buried in a shallow grave. The body's terrible decomposition makes it clear that they were murdered a long time before Washington was assassinated. In order to take over Washington's drug smuggling and theft operations, corrupt police officers Ludlow and Disco set up a meeting with the two thieves posing as Fremont and Coates, whom they believe killed Washington. Disco is eventually brought to the conference despite Ludlow's best efforts to persuade him to stay away. When the criminals spot Ludlow from the convenience store and understand he and Disco are off-duty and out for vengeance, the meeting goes very wrong. Disco also recognizes the two offenders, but Coates, one of the impersonators, shoots and murders Disco before he can reveal their real names. Following a gunfight, Ludlow murders both Fremont and Coates before fleeing back to the home of his girlfriend, Grace. According to a TV news broadcast from the scene, the dead criminals were actually undercover sheriff's detectives who were killed by Ludlow. Ludlow wonders how the story, especially his involvement, could have gotten to television so rapidly. All of a sudden, Santos and DeMille, two of his own unit's officers, break into Grace's home and seize Ludlow. When they turn the car around and head in the opposite direction, he believes they are taking him to the police station. In order to keep Washington from testifying against Wander and not Ludlow, in Biggs' investigation, Santos and DeMille admit that they planted Fremont and Coates' DNA and the drugs in his car at the location of his murder. In an attempt to escape being killed by Santos and DeMille, Ludlow tackles the driver from the back seat of the car, causing it to crash. The two policemen lead Ludlow to the residence where the two dead were earlier discovered. He will be put to death after they place some of his DNA at the crime scene. They make fun of Ludlow, but he is able to slink into the undergrowth and kill them. Now, Ludlow goes to Washington's home because he knows Mike Clady, another member of Wander's team, will be there looking for the security disc he left behind, which would reveal the true circumstances surrounding Washington's death. Clady is assaulting the widow of Washington until Ludlow interrupts him and tosses him into the car's trunk. Ludlow is now quite certain that he was a tool in a scheme hatched by Captain Wander. To be sure Wander truly intended to kill him, Ludlow visits Wander's home. He invites Wander to text Clady for assistance and wonders if he can fix things. In actuality, Wander had instructed Clady to visit his home and kill Ludlow in a message that was left on Clady's phone, which was in the possession of Ludlow. Ludlow and Wander then engage in combat, with Ludlow eventually handcuffing Wander to a railing. Wander instructs Ludlow to knock down a wall in his home, revealing a sizable sum of money that has been taken. Wander claims to have proof against virtually every member of the department, as well as judges and politicians. Wander has been able to fast advance up the department ranks and cover up the corruption in his unit because he has so many people in his corner. Wander attempts to persuade Ludlow that he is his friend and that all the money is for the benefit of Wander's unit while announcing his plans to become chief and eventually mayor. "You are my best friend," Ludlow says Wander before shooting him twice in the chest. The next time we see Ludlow, he is standing on Wander's back porch being ordered to put down his gun by a plainclothes police officer. Internal Affairs Officer Biggs shows up behind the policeman and claims to have arrived immediately after being called by Ludlow. Biggs explains to Ludlow that by exposing Ludlow to the true corruption occurring within his organization, Biggs was able to use Ludlow to capture Wander and gain access to Wander's papers and money. "One day the chief will pass you in the hall and he will give you a nod and you will know why," Biggs says as he hands Ludlow's gun and handcuffs back. And this is the end of this movie. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for daily updates of movie recaps like this. Comment what movie you want next. Thanks for watching.